Stop using somebody else's revenue operating system inside your organization. The biggest challenge you have today with your operating system from a revenue perspective is that you're trying to apply somebody else's system. Build your own. You can build your own in the context of both processes and tools so that you functionally can move resources, allocate resources around properly. Today on Learn, Think, Act, I'm going deep into this. Get ready. If you are looking to grow your business, whether it's a company that you work within, or it is your own company, or it's your own solo practice, this discussion is going to be for you. This is about building out your revenue operating system. Last week, we talked about personal operating systems and broke down definitions around what systems are. If you want to go back and watch that, click on this card. You'll be able to do that. There are a combination of things that we want to have. Systems are the combination of both process and tools. And what they do is they make sure we put the resources in the right place. So clear definition around it. A system is a combination of process and tools, and it makes sure that we use resources appropriately, funnel resources appropriately. This includes extending decision-making across your team. It includes doing specific jobs. It includes a number of other things that fit into your revenue engine. And we're going to build that as part of our revenue operating system in today's discussion. The first thing I want to understand from a process standpoint is, how does a customer make a decision? So what's the view from the customer perspective? The reason we start with the customer perspective, they're the one who actually buys from you. They're the one who has the problem you solve for. There's nobody that I know who's kept their business going by selling to themselves, unless they happen to be maybe a managed service inside an organization, they've got an internal customer base inside their organization, and they're moving money around the business in that manner. But here, customers, these are the people who are buying. What we want to understand is, hey, how do they make their decision-making process? Who are they? How, who, what do they care about? If we know these how, who's, and what's, and ultimately whys, and can lay out the path, we're going to have a better understanding of how customers are moving through that specific journey. The way that I like to think about this is game of life. And if you want to go deep on designing for customer experience, working through this process, check out that video that we did a couple of months back. So first thing I want to understand, this from the customer's perspective. Who are they? What do they care about? Why do they care about those things? Let's pull all of that information together so that we have a view, a perspective around who we serve. Then let's understand, what is their actual decision-making process. On our business side, what I want to understand is, how do we actually execute? On the business side, there's a couple of different processes that we have to worry about. The business process that we want to worry about relative to forecasting is a sales process with specific stages. This starts to look a little bit like chutes and ladders. You've seen some videos around the catalyst sale process. Ultimately, it's validation. We validate that there's a scenario where we could work with each other. Qualified. We've qualified the customer based on whatever criteria. We understand the story from their perspective. That's a big one for me. The specific problem that we're looking to solve. Fit, we determine based on that they are the right fit for us. Confirm fit, client says, based on what you know about us, what we know about your solution, how we've gone through it, we believe that you can actually help us solve it. Proposal approved, closed won, and then confirmation. Now, the cool thing about this part of the process is you have to go through each of those stages in order, but sometimes you'll go backward. You may go back from, it's rare that you're ever going to go from proposal approved backward, but you might go from client confirm fit to fit and back and forth as you kind of work on solution design. Someone new at the point where a proposal has already been approved gets inserted in, and now you've got to go back to qualified. I like to use past tenses here because you go through that gate. Once you go through that gate, then it's your probability of sale relative to going through that gate stays the same. So past tenses, catalyst sale process is something that you can look into. I used to get hung up around the names here. I don't worry about names as much today. I worry more about job to be done. And the job to be done at the stage is that once you've passed through that gate, so once it's qualified, our probability of sale is consistent. Or once fit has been confirmed on the client side, our probability of sale is consistent. And that's what ultimately leads to forecasting. The variables that you have here are things like amount, so money, time, close date, and stage. If you have those three things, you will get better at forecasting. The job to be done of that specific process is the forecast. The other process you want to build out is how do you actually do what you do? How do you execute? What's your process? What's your wash, rinse, repeat process that you use when you're onboarding a customer or you're engaging with a customer on a specific project? What is your specific execution process? How do you deliver? Now, that's going to look similar to the client journey, other than it's not going to meander. It's going to be kind of straight line piece. You're going to go through each of these gates. And if you hit on each of those gates, the likelihood of success increases. Now, the fourth one, so we went to customers, went to business. Now let's talk about the individuals inside your business. What's their approach? What's the sales rep approach? How do they identify customers? How do they engage with customers? How do they establish objectives, clarify next steps, call them to action, and re-engage? This is a high-level overview of the process component that you incorporate into your system. Ultimately, what you want to know is your customer's process from a decision-making standpoint, your business process from forecasting and execution, and then your rep process, how they go through and do their work. You can apply this to any functional area inside your business. And ideally, what ends up happening is you start to see how these pieces interact with each other. As you add new people into the business, complexity increases. You add new layers. That makes it much harder or increases the risk of potential failed resource allocation. So now we go ahead and we reflect on how things are working through the process, have conversion metrics on each of these stages that people work through, and then you can start to identify where is there an opportunity to improve. So the first part about building your revenue operating system is having those processes. The thing that's hard about the process piece is these processes are always evolving. The primary areas don't change, meaning you've got your business process for execution, your business process for forecasting, your decision-making process for customers, and your sales rep approach. Over time, you're going to get new data. You're going to start to figure out what's working, what's not working, where are you stuck, and that's where you can go through and start iterating on these processes to improve your capability. This is why I think you need to build your own revenue system, your own revenue operating system, rather than adopting somebody else's. When you adopt it at that point in time, you're adopting it in a way, shape, or form that might have worked inside the company that person worked at the given point in time that they were building. My guidance for you, start small, iterate, build your own when it comes to these processes. So the next piece around the system is tools. Now, if everybody has the same tools that we're using inside the organization, we're going to improve the way that we communicate with each other. So we've got the process aspect. Now let's move into the tool aspect. For me, there are a couple of core tools that are critical in any revenue operating system. A couple of core tools. Number one, I want to know how we're going to make decisions. So let's prioritize, have our 2x2s and our decision-making framework, proposal plan, decision-making tool, 2x2s, to help improve decision-making and spread decision-making across the organization. So we have decision-making tools like the investment decision-making tool and the 2x2s. We have problem-solving tools like the hexagon, a problem-solving tool. We could also use this for the account plan. This is actually the origination of this hexagon. It was the account plan that you could use as a qualification framework. So when we were talking about qualified, this is actually what I use. What problem are we solving for? Who has it? Who's impacted by it? Who cares about the people who have or are impacted by it? Why? Why does it persist? Do your root cause analysis. Why is it important to solve the business impact? And then you can move into how. How are they doing it today? How are they doing it in the future? When? And then our 30, 60, 90, short-term, medium-term, long-term. That problem-solving framework can help you solve problems inside your organization and solve problems for your customers. And sales is ultimately problem-solving. It's about connecting the dots between problems that are known and solutions that are known. Problem is, some problems are unknown, some solutions are unknown, and that's where things get really kind of crazy. So your outreach is really important in context, because sometimes people need an experience to become problem aware. If you'd like to go deeper on that, let's have a conversation. So we have our decision-making process, we have our problem-solving process tool, and then we have our communication tool. So the effective communication tool for me is that call plan. Who is going to be in the room? What are their objectives? What are our objectives? And what are the desired next steps? What do we expect to get to next? Who's in the room? Who's getting the message? What is the objective of the person who's reading or consuming the message or participating in the meeting? What is your objective when sending it? What's our objective? And what are our desired next steps? The specific things that we want to have as calls to action or next steps that happen there. If you have a decision-making tool, you have problem-solving or account planning tools, and you have communication call planning tools, you can use these to enable your customers to be successful. Tools are used to create leverage when you have the skills to apply the right tool in the right context. So we have our tools, we can enable success, we can design for success with our customers. The other thing that I would suggest that you add in, which doesn't really fit into this, although it applies to the decision-making component, is have a set of guiding principles or operating principles, depending on how you want to look at it, for your specific team or your specific company, depending on how the structure is. What guiding principles do for you, if you organize those things around a specific list of guiding principles, prioritized in a given way, it will help you make more effective decisions in the field and decentralized decision-making across the team. So we've got guiding principles to help with decision-making. We have decision-making tools. We have our account planning tool, problem-solving tool. We have our communication tool. How do we actually figure out who our ideal customer is and not try to boil the ocean? Well, that's where, depending on which logo of the Catalyst family of companies, so whether it was backing Catalyst Sale or Catalyst Axe or Catalyst in general, you'll be familiar with our territory plan model. And that is ultimately identifying 4 to 5 yes/no statements about your ideal customer profile, and then plotting them against a graph that kind of looks like this, building out your specific area chart. That's the whole creating focus through lines of clarity. So territory planning inside a B2B organization, a company that serves businesses, you'd want to know that at the org level, and you'd want to know it at the individual level. So if we have our territory plan, we have our decision-making framework, we have our account planning framework, and we have our communication framework. What we will do is we will be in a place where people inside your team can use the tools effectively to go to market, gather information, and help improve how you're learning and iterating relative to your revenue operating system, so that put the right resources in the right place based on process and decision making. So process tools effectively used across your revenue operating system. It's a lot to cover. We hit territory planning, we hit account planning, we hit call planning, we hit proposal planning. We talked about enabling success. We hit on guiding principles to help drive that across an organization. And ultimately, if you have these components inside your revenue operating system, you will be able to gather better data across your customer base, identify what's working, what's not working, where are you stuck, and have consistent methods that you apply in the work that you do. So a lot of people will talk about sales methodology. Let's talk about methods. My view on this, methods are how we do what we do, how we approach the things that we do inside the market. We use a combination of processes and tools to help allocate resources effectively to drive customer success. These are the methods we apply in that environment. We use call plans. So this is Catalyst. We use call plans to enable either problem solving or decision making. You need to understand what your methods are and get aligned on this. And one of the cool things about a guided whiteboard session like this, or doing this with teams, is you can get your information out of your head and up onto the whiteboard. And if you're looking for something like that, know that this is something I do. It's something I've got a knack for doing, asking the basic questions that pull information out of folks so that we don't create giant blind spots for ourselves. So if you'd like to do that, check out the guided whiteboard sessions. Doing it for teams, it helps create alignment. And when you actually design some of these processes together, you'd be amazed about how connected you and your team can get. This works really well with a number of the clients that I've had a chance to work with. And what I've done now is started to do it more on an individual team basis instead of in a broader client engagement to make that a little bit more accessible. If you have questions about building out your revenue operating system, please give me a ring. This is a good overarching overview of all of the components for that revenue operating system and how you can go build your own. I think the biggest mistake is when someone tries to insert or implement somebody else's operating system. that works with computers. And the reason it works with computers is a lot of times computers are using the same kind of resources. It does not work with humans. Your humans are a little bit different. Build out your own revenue operating system. If you're looking for help, I know a guy. I'm Simmons. I'm that guy. And you can find your catalyst at findmycatalyst.com.